This discussion has been generating lots and lots of reaction across the country.
Yeah.
Now, joining us in the studio to discuss this is Major General Biodun Rule, retired. It's good to have you, General. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Right. Now, everyone has talked about the need for synergy between the Nigerian Army, Nigerian government, and international humanitarian agencies and all of that. But with this raid that has led to lots and lots of reaction, does it seem like there's enough synergy when the army came to say that, well, there was no sign of the UN in the compound, that it didn't show that
It was a
UN compound? So it means the army were not even aware that the UN agencies were there.
Let me correct one impression first.
Okay.
Using the word raid, I think, was only to sensationalize. The UN compound, wasn't particularly targeted. If you observe over a period of time now, there's been this incessant bombing being carried out in Maiduguri, and the public relations of the Nigerian Army kept on appealing to citizens, particularly residents in Maiduguri, that they should be more alert, they should be more vigilant, they should pass information that will be helpful in the protection of the people. And if the army gets information or there is intelligence to show that there are individuals who probably want to use the vicinity of the UN, for example, as cover to perpetrate their evil act, and the army moves in as quickly as possible to carry out what its cordon and search operation. It couldn't be deliberate. It might just be out of the fact that the information came in and they moved in quickly so that the Studley Act couldn't be carried out.
Okay, you said they moved in quickly. In this particular case, is there a mechanism of sifting such intelligence to prevent this kind of situation? Because when you have the Nigerian Army raiding the compound, very compound of UN staffers and workers, and of course the number of NGOs that are helping in the humanitarian crisis in the Northeast, shouldn't there be some kind of mechanism to actually sift and decide which one should be followed and what information really doesn't make much sense?
If you're not within the conflict environment, it will always be difficult, to appreciate some of the actions that are taken. Like I said, let's disuse the word raid. The army will not go deliberately into the UN compound or UN building to go and carry out any action. And like the army rightly said, if the building was properly marked, if the building was properly registered as a UN building, the army will not just go in there. Even if there are information that points to the fact that wanted individuals have filtered into the UN building, there are avenues through which the information can be passed to whoever is the head of the UN within the same place. You see, anyone that's familiar with conflict environments all over the world will tell you that a lot of people in conflict, particularly adversaries, often use even the Red Cross, the UN insignia, to cover their evil perpetrations.
So even if the UN insignia was on this particular building, it wouldn't have necessarily prevented the army from carrying out this cordon and search operation that it did last Friday?
Within the vicinity, yes, but not particularly into the compound.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, but from the military report we got, they got intelligence that hierarchy of Boko Haram could be infiltrating that part of town, the Pompomari area.
That's right.
And they couldn't and searched all the places they did and didn't find anyone and didn't arrest anyone. Could it be that intelligence failed?
It might not necessarily be a failure of intelligence, because when you act on information and you make your moves, the adversary are also watching your moves. They're not sitting back wanting you to come and pick them up live. If they also get the info that you're preparing to come after them, they could just, exfiltrate. In other words, move away from the area. And by the time you carry out your actions, and you really don't find anyone around there, of course, to the ordinary person, you'll be like, the operation has failed. And to the UN personnel, for example, who felt embarrassed by the action, of course, they'll feel, this shouldn't have taken place in the first place. But all the same, these are some of the vagaries of finding oneself within an environment where military operations are always carried out.
So what do we make then of, when the Nigerian army says the operation was actually a successful one, when nobody was arrested and no suspects were found within the vicinity or even in the periphery of that particular UN compound? How do you term it successful?
Well, it depends on what you say as being successful. Deterrence, keeping evil ones away from carrying out their acts, is success in itself. Because if you carry out a preemptive operation and you prevent the individuals from carrying out a predetermined action, and the action didn't take place, that in itself is a success.
All right, there's even the concern of Nigerians and even those who have been watching this issue, that how possible is it for the UN to have a building or a compound and the Nigerian army is not fully aware of where they are?
You say, I want to go along with the thinking that the army is not fully aware that the building is not there. But an action can take place within the vicinity where the UN position is. Don't forget, the so-called cordon and search operations that took place, they didn't just take place within the periphery of the UN building. No. It took place within a wider area within which the UN building is located. And of course, you shouldn't be generating the kind of controversies generating in the media, because in the first place...
Is that controversy in the media when you have the UN coordinator for Nigeria, Edward Cullen himself, saying that, this actually condemning the unauthorized, search of this UN base?
He may feel embarrassed. Because a military action, when you are carrying out your operations, you are not going to inform someone and say, look, I'm coming to come and carry out this action within your environment. No. It is when you wake up and suddenly see actions that is taking place around you, and you felt, look, this is where we have this authority to be here, by the virtue of our positioning, you shouldn't even be around here. Of course, they may feel embarrassed about that, but that in itself didn't constitute the fact that it was a raid. And I'm glad that he himself later affirmed the fact that that the action took place didn't in itself distort the good relationship they're having with the Nigerian army and even with the civil authority there.
All right. Now, under ideal circumstances, any UN compound, should there be a logo, a flag, or a sign, an emblem of the United Nations to show that this is the compound of it? So it means, based on standard, they have failed by not having any of the emblem of the United Nations in that compound.
Well, if what we see in the pictures is anything to go by, I haven't seen any UN flag in the place. Yes, the place is painted white. You know, that in itself is not
It's a rented apartment of the house of the former governor of Borno State, late Malaka Chala.
Well, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know, because the UN can use any building it feels suitable for its operations. So it doesn't matter.
Okay,
but
well,
at least it should be properly signed.
It's of course reassuring that the UN's Deputy Coordinator Humanitarian Affairs for Nigeria has said the relationship between Nigeria and the UN remains intact. But then again, you cannot discountenance the fact that there has been some kind of tension between Nigeria, the Nigerian military, and the UN. Of course, the UN and Amnesty International and some other agencies have been questioning the modus operandi of the Nigerian military when it comes to human rights abuses in the war against Boko Haram. So now going forward, what do you expect to see so that we don't have this kind of situation arising?
Well, as you rightly pointed out, probably, you know, once the communication gaps are closed and the synergy between the various institutions are enhanced, I think it will bring, you know, a lot more cooperation and collaboration.
All right, let me ask you this, because in the past week we've been following up on the progress of the military one way or the other. There has been a marching order by the Chief of Army Staff for the military to capture Abubakar Shekau, the head of Boko Haram, dead or alive. And we have been looking at that information being in the public domain, whether it puts unnecessary pressure on the military. What's your take on this?
Does it?
You know, in the military, when you give a task, the task is the mission of the unit. The Chief of Army Staff says, I want you to bring me Shekau dead or alive. It's
in 40 days.
So all the operational units need to do is to step up their acts and ensure that they comb every nook and cranny of the area of operations and ensure that the mission is fulfilled.
How would you rate or assess the Operation Lafia Dole as it has gone on so far? What would you like to see? I mean, you are an ex-general, a retired Major General. What are the things you would like to see from where you are standing for this operation to actually be successful?
I think we should commend the armed forces. One, they've been able to restore civil authorities in virtually all the areas affected, which is the desired thing. They've wrested from the grip of the Boko Haram insurgents the capability to do whatever thing they want to do. That in itself is a success. It's a pity that because they had become hydra-headed, because they had diffused all over the places, because they had trained in the use of IEDs. So the occasional bombings that we are seeing is still going to subsist a little longer than expected.
You call them occasional. The ordinary man watching from wherever actually feels that it's become a daily affair. It almost contradicts the claims of the Nigerian army that they have actually decapitated, more or less, the Boko Haram.
No, you say, again, it's not the way I will look at it, that the ordinary man will look at it.
Okay.
Okay. I'll look at it globally and measure that, is the operation so far accomplishing the aim? If it is, yes, then you'll also have the handful that needs to be tackled as closely as possible. And that's what brought about the cordon and search operations that brought about this incident in Maiduguri. You know, and that is going to continue, you know, for a little while.
All right. In the past, the army had come out to give time frames as to how long before Boko Haram insurgency or terrorism would end in Nigeria. And here we are several years afterwards, we're still having these cases. In your mind, relating to the question that Ngozi, my colleague, just asked, how soon can Nigerians really see the end of Boko Haram? I know it's anyway, let me put it very bare to you.
One of the most difficult operations any military in the world can embark upon is counter-terrorism. It's a challenging operation because it's not the conventional military operations. These are individuals that operate in cells. You can't say this is where they are located today. If they are located here today, you can wake up the next day and they're no longer there. So that really makes it challenging. But with active intelligence, with cooperation from citizens, it's been quite easy to go after these individuals.
How active is this intelligence? The general perception is that the people, especially in the northeast there, they don't have confidence to really come out to give information that will lead to the apprehension of some of these Boko Haram members. As a matter of fact, we had a guest here in the studio who almost alarmed us when he said, in almost every family you have a Boko Haram member, and that in itself further complicates the whole, idea of getting intelligence from this same people, because, hey, their family members are involved in this.
It's really unfortunate that within the community itself, while you have those who are helping, you also have those who are sabotaging. Not for anything, but because some of them are actually benefiting from this. Some are acting as double agents. Hey, one side of their face is they pretend they are helping the government. The other side, they are feeding the insurgents with information, and they're benefiting both ways. And when you have a situation of that nature, it makes the situation more tasking, makes it more challenging. And then you find situations in which people have been badly indoctrinated. And when you ask them, what is this cause you are really fighting for? Well, they can't give anything definite other than the fact that there's something they're gaining out of it. I mean, it's not religious. It's not religious.
Isn't that where the re-indoctrination really should start? Because this is a war of ideologies. Maybe we should begin the war from actually resetting the minds of those who would buy into the ideologies of this.
That's where we should start from.
Yeah.
But we must thank you, Major General Abiodun Rele, retired, for joining.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you for coming on the program.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you.